And it's live. Awesome. Hello to anyone who's out there. We're officially starting in 10 minutes, but I thought I'd check in a little early, make sure I'm ready, make sure you're ready. If anyone has any questions, now's a good time to ask them. We're not really going officially just yet. We'll start up the official video in about 9 minutes. Hope everyone's doing well. Already up to 10 viewers, couple of likes. We're going to get going, don't you worry, but this is just the introduction. If anyone has any questions, they can type them into the window. I will be posting links to the slides. I'll be posting links to the code, and actually links to the slides and links to the code are already in the description, so you can see, now it's saying I'm too low, 4,500. Let's see. There, I've adjusted the video bitrate based on the warning that it gave me. 4,500. There we go. Please let me know in the chat window if there's any issues. There is about a 15 or 20 second. We'll be going in about 7 minutes. Any questions, please feel free to ask them. You should only be seeing me and the community circle slide right now. We'll be starting up in just a couple of minutes, but I wanted to make sure I was online, available, everything seemed to be working. Right now it looks really good, the connection's good, the bit rate's good. I'm seeing a lot better feedback from the thing, so anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to toss them in there. Otherwise, we'll get going shortly. Chat will be there. That will be recorded as well as the video, so that's going to be there. But if you have questions after today, what I've got is a Discord server, and there's a link to that down in the description. So you can go down there, follow that link to the Discord server, and get yourself connected up. That's you know, how you can do conversations after today. And over the next 8 weeks when we're doing this whole session. I'll be talking about some more about this stuff now when we get going. I mean, this is just some general introductory housekeeping. Only a few concurrent viewers, couple of likes. Hope everyone's doing well. And like I said, the live chat is available for you guys to use for questions, comments. Feel free to use it. The slides are available online already at slideshare.net. Those, the link to that is in the description. The code is already available on GitHub. The link to that is in the description. The link to everything is in the description, so go down there and take a look at it. Let's see, 5 more minutes and we'll get going officially. If anyone who's here now has any questions, feel free to ask. As I say, we will be doing a lot more formal stuff as we get going. I'm going to be doing the formal presentation in about 5 minutes' time. I'm looking at rainy weather myself, but otherwise things are doing really well here. I hope you guys are doing well where you're at. And again, the official start time is about 4 minutes from now. I went live just a little early to make sure everything was set up. It looks like we've got a good connection. It looks like everything's streaming appropriately. And that was my main concern. If you have any questions, feel free to use that live chat window. Type them right in there. Happy to help out with anything as we go along through this. Note that there will be a delay between what you type and when I see it. Or I should say, between what you're seeing and then what I'm going to see responses to. You guys will be coming in a little later, about 20 seconds or so behind me. I've been testing this stuff to see how it works, so we'll see how that goes. About 4 more minutes, we'll get going officially. Now, this is meant to be a live stream, and the live stream and not just simply recording the content so that you can interact. So please, please feel free to dive in there with any questions, comments, whatever. That's what it's there for. Now, we will also be recording it, so everything will be recorded and saved. You can go back and watch it again. By the way, I'm going to be repeating all this when we actually start officially. Just clearing things out right now. My wife is abandoning the area so that I've got to myself, and we'll be going again in about 3 minutes' time. Hope you're all doing well. Not a single comment yet. 3 likes, though. That's nice. Appreciate the likes. But I would prefer questions. That's why we're doing this live. This is why it's a live stream. For anyone who doesn't know, yes, my beard is missing. There was a mistake made this today when I was trimming it, and sort of had to take it down. It'll regrow, no problem. It's partly there, but it'll come back. Couple more minutes going officially. From what I can see, all the settings look good. All the connections look good. Stream is healthy. Cool. That was my main concern. Getting on a little early to make sure everything was set right. This is my first, I did a couple of Twitch streams before. They didn't work out well. This is my first time doing an official live YouTube, so we'll see how it goes. Pretty excited about it. Very excited about what Community Circle. By the way, the Community Circle information is also in the link down below. You can follow that to get to what we're doing with this. Basically, we're making some community content. We're making a lot of community content. It has nothing to do with Redgate software. It just has to do with helping you guys out any way we can. It's the general idea. Another minute and we'll start officially. We lost a couple of connections. That's okay. They're coming and going. Like I said, this was just a setup to make sure everything was ready to go, ready to work. It's looking good from my end. I recognize that's a little bright back here, but we will be fixing that later. I've got some stuff coming in to make it better. All right, we are just about ready for the official start time. Let me go ahead and switch over to what we're doing. All right, I'd like to welcome you all to SQL Server Tools for Query Tuning. This is a free online live stream training session. The whole idea here is to try to help out, try to do what we can to help you learn more about SQL Server. This is going to be, the tools that we're talking about today are Microsoft tools. We're going to be talking about Microsoft stuff. It's all things that are available to you for free as part of SQL Server. So there's nothing you have to do, nothing you have to get. It's all focused on SQL Server and SQL Server tooling. Now, the goals for the 8-week session. For 8 weeks, we're going to be talking about this. My goals are really simple. You can read them there, but basically, there are a lot of tools that SQL Server gives us, and we have a tendency to learn 2 or 3 of them. We learn them a little bit, maybe not a lot, and then we use those 2 or 3 tools to solve every problem. And the fact is that there's actually a whole bunch of other tools that people either don't know about at all, or don't understand sufficiently, or just haven't used, or actually have gotten very bad information about them. And my whole goal here is to walk you through as many of these tools as I can, because these tools make it easier to do query tuning. Query tuning is insanely difficult. It is not easy. I'm going to talk some more about query tuning in just a little bit. But you can read through the goals. You can understand what's going on here. The whole idea is very simple. I want to give you information that makes it possible for you to do query tuning more easily. Even though it's not easy, we can make it easier. Now, this is a live stream event. This is live, going on as we speak. It is also going to be recorded. So if you look upon it after today, and today is the 21st of April 2020, you'll be looking at a recording. And that's fine. The recorded content will be useful to you too. There is a live chat window that's there available to you right now. You guys can type in questions as we go along. Please feel free to use that. I've got it right up here on my screen. I will be keeping an eye on it. There are also links in the description down below to the slide deck, which is already available to you now. There are links down below to the code, which I'm going to be demonstrating over the next 8 weeks. That's available to you now. And you can also get a link to the Discord discussion server that I have set up for this event. What I'm going to be doing with the Discord is questions that come up after today from the recordings or anything else. I will continue to monitor that Discord server over time. We will introduce new discussion groups for each of the topics that we cover, and you guys can use that for questions after today. Now, today and every day that we're live streaming this event, I would appreciate it if you took advantage of the live chat and asked questions. If there's anything you need to know, if there's something I haven't made sufficiently clear, ask now. This is a great way to do it. You can type it right into the live chat, and I'll pick it up and see what's going on. Okay, so with that, let's keep going. Which screen? So for those who don't know, my name is Grant Fritchie. I do work for Redgate Software as a DevOps advocate. This is my contact information if you want to ask me questions after today. You've got my Twitter handle, you've got my email address, and you've got my blog. You can get in touch with me after today, and I will try to answer your questions. There's nothing really special about me. I don't need to go into a whole lot, but the reason we're going to be here for the next 8 weeks is because I've written books on query tuning, a couple of books on indexing, books on execution plans, and I've updated those books several times. Query Store book, just a whole bunch of stuff in and around the idea of performance tuning. And so it's something that I kind of specialize in and help out with. And so that's why you're here, is to learn about that stuff. And as soon as possible, my beard will be back to the lovely shape it is there. So anyway, let's get going. As I already said, the code and the slides are available to you. You can get them from these locations that I'm showing here now, or you can see the links down below in the description. They're all online now. They're all available to you now. Please take advantage of it. Use this stuff. Get in touch with me as needed and use these things as you want to, because this is all there for you to use. Next up, there is a follow-up discussion area on a Discord server, and it's at discord.gg D9APVED. Yes, and you have to get the capitalization correct as well. But it's all right there, and you guys can see it and track it down as needed. So that's the basic setup. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to spend the next 8 weeks talking about query tuning. So let's get started on query tuning. Let me first do a quick adjustment. I'm going to take away my lovely face. You're going to look at the screen only for the time being. So here's the deal. Query tuning is impossibly hard. It is extremely difficult to the point where I generally tell people don't bother query tuning. You are so much better off just buying more hardware. Buy more disks. Buy a bigger, faster, stronger CPU. Buy more CPU. Move yourself to the next tier on Azure or AWS or wherever you're hosting your servers. You are so much better off just throwing money at the problem. That is how you're going to solve most performance issues. Now, eventually, the money runs out. And once the money runs out, what you're left with is time. Now, I recognize that your time is also money, but the fact is that companies will frequently be more than willing to spend money on hardware and stuff instead of spending money on doing the harder stuff, which is query tuning. Query tuning is more difficult. It requires knowledge. It requires understanding, and you have to spend the time to develop knowledge and develop understanding, and then you can tune queries. And funny enough, once you're tuning queries with knowledge and understanding, the performance impact that you get is bigger and stronger and more effective than buying bigger and faster hardware. It's just buying bigger and faster hardware is easier. So it's something that you should know. So anyway, if we're going to do query tuning, and we could start anywhere on this, let's start at the top. The first thing we're going to have to do anytime we're doing query tuning is we have to first identify the queries to be tuned. That is not as simple as it sounds, because you could use a very simple mechanism of identification, such as, this is the one the boss is complaining about, or this is the one the boss told me to work on. That can work, but you're going to have to get to a point where you're proactively identifying the queries. Well, so that's easy. You say, well, it's the query that runs the longest. And a really long running query could be a problem. But what if it's only called once a year? Maybe there's a query that's called 100 times a minute in your systems and it doesn't show up in the long running queries, but it's actually using the most resources. Performance impact there could be huge compared to that long running query. So you've got to come up with different mechanisms for identifying the problem query. And that's step one. What are we going to work on? Next, investigate it. Well, what the heck is it doing? Why are we having performance problems? Where is the bottleneck coming from? Why is it not performing the way we would expect it to? Is it our code? Well, usually. Is it our data structures? Yeah, frequently. Is it our indexes? Yeah, frequently. Or is it something else? Is it underlying hardware? Is it are there issues with our setup? Are we experiencing some kind of bug? Right? You've got to investigate and understand what's going on in order to then make the next step. And the next step is begin the process of making modifications. And making modifications means, yes, adding an index. Ta-da! Adding an index is definitely one of the things you may do to performance tune. It's not magical, though. You can't just simply say, well, every time there's a performance problem, throw an index on it and we're good to go. You must go through the idea of identifying and then making the modifications. Maybe you need to make modifications to code. Maybe you need to make modifications to something else. Whatever it is that you make the modifications to, server settings, I don't know, something, you then must measure and then remodify as needed. That may be a step where you hang out for a while. You're doing investigation, modify, measure, investigate, modify, measure, investigate, modify, measure a lot, because you need to understand what impact the changes you are making have. And then finally, built into SQL Server, there's actually some automation that can help with some of our query tuning. Now, the automation aspect of query tuning at this point in time is fairly minimal and fairly limited. I don't want to get anyone excited that we're going to be able to automatically tune queries. That may happen at some point in the future. I don't think that it ever will in a major way, but because the fact is that if you write, it's really, really hard to tune bad code. It's very hard to tune bad structures. So if you give, Automation Engine bad code and bad structures, it's only going to be able to help you so much. You still are going to have to get in there with the Mark I eyeball and investigate things and understand it. So this is the basic idea of query tuning. Identify the problems that we're looking at, investigate what is causing that problem, make modifications, whether that's to the code or to your structures or something else, measure the impact of those modifications and compare it to the measurements you made to identify that poorly performing query, and then in some cases, gleefully rely upon automation to handle the issue. All right, are there any questions so far? And remember, this is a live stream. You're watching it live. If you've got questions, I would really appreciate you typing them into the live chat. It's right there available to you. And by the way, hello, Rohit. Okay. We'll keep going from here. Oops. We'll keep going from here. So, what I'm going to be talking about in this course over the next 8 weeks, the first thing we're going to be talking about is how do you identify the poorly performing queries. And on 3 different tools. We will have at least one session each of these 3 tools. I'm going to be talking about extended events. I'm going to drill down on extended events. I'm going to show you how they work. I'm also going to show you why I use them for everything. They are the primary measurement tool that I use when I am trying to identify poorly performing queries. And there's a number of reasons why on this. We will spend a ton of time talking about exactly why extended events. And further, I will explain why I'm talking about extended events and not talking about trace or profiler for some of you. It's not simply that extended events is a replacement for trace. Extended events is more than trace. It is so much bigger and more than trace. And so I'm going to tell you why and how that all works. The next thing we're going to be spending a bunch of time with is QueryStore. Now, QueryStore is 2016 and above and or Azure SQL database, but it is really an amazing tool. It makes such a difference in what you can do and how you can do it in identifying poorly performing queries. And best of all, Microsoft recognized what it does and how it works and built directly into the tool the concept of a regression so that QueryStore itself spot when you are seeing queries run slower than they did previously. Now, it can't do anything about it automatically, but at least you've got a mechanism for identifying those problems. And then finally, we're going to talk about the DMVs, the Dynamic Management Views. There's a whole bunch of them. We're going to spend a bunch of time talking about it, and I will also talk about some of the external resources that you have to learn and deal with DMVs. You do not have to write all your own DMV queries. There are ways to get around that. But I do like to walk you through and understand which of the DMVs are important and which of the DMVs will give you to help you identify poorly performing queries. So that's just really important that we know. And so this is the stuff we're going to cover over the next 8 weeks to identify which queries are running slow. Now, are there any questions at this point? I'll just pause for a second. There's about a 20-second delay. And right now, this is all largely introductory information, so we're not going to get into the details and the grotty details today. We will be doing it over the next 8 weeks. Okay. By the way, as McToon, hi, how are you? Cool. All right, let's keep going. Next up, investigate. How do we investigate? How do we see what happened and what changes and what bottlenecks are we looking at that could be causing our problems, right? We've identified our poorly performing query, but now we need to understand exactly what's causing it to perform poorly. Well, we've got 2 primary tools for this. One is QueryStore. Now, the QueryStore is not as big an investigation as the second one, which we're going to talk about in a second. But it does add a whole aspect of our ability to understand what's going on inside of the queries that we didn't previously have prior to QueryStore without a whole bunch of extra work on your part. So we're going to talk as a tool for investigation as well as a tool for identification. And then we're going to talk about execution plans. Now, when we talk about execution plans, we're going to talk about execution 2 of these sessions, and they may be more than an hour each. I have allowed for the fact that some of this material is rather involved, and even though I'm going to cover it over the 8 weeks, some of it I may cover for longer than an hour, and execution plans is definitely one of the things that's probably going to run long, because there is so much to talk about in terms of execution plans to your understanding of the behavior of queries. And that's the key here. It is a tool. You need to know that execution plans is something that you need to learn how to use, not simply look at, oh, look, scans are bad, throw an index on it, the scan is gone, I have a seek, we're done. It's very seldom that simple, especially as you get into more complex queries. So let's learn how to use execution plans as a tool for our investigations. Now let me just pause a second here again to see if there's any questions. How's everyone doing? By the way, just to repeat, there is about a 20-second delay between my pausing and you guys actually typing. So that's why I say, like, if you've got questions, start typing them the second it comes into your brain, and we'll do our best to deal with it as we go along. Okay, not seeing anything. Let's talk about the modification stuff. Now, the modification stuff, we're not going to be actually doing a lot of that in this particular set of presentations because we're not going to T-SQL. We're not going to be doing a lot of time on indexes. We're not going to be talking statistics, constraints, and keys. That could be another whole 8-hour presentation. We are going to talk about separation and database scoped configurations because that little bit of modification is not terribly well known, and it gives us a tool that a lot of people don't know about. So talk about that. But modification for our purposes during this 8-week course, this is something that we're going to kind of skip over. Now, question from Rohat. He says, I've seen many times SQL fails to provide execution plans for some queries which use temp tables. Well, okay, so Rohit, it's always going to give you an execution plan. It ain't always going to give you the execution plan you want. And that's how we will talk about the how and the why of that later, okay? Later on in the course, not even today. We can't even get to it today. Although if you want to post a question into the place I set up for doing the questions later, the Discord server. Thank you. Gosh, I need a new brain. Anyway, if you do want to post questions in the Discord server, regardless of what we've covered so far in the course, I would be happy to answer questions there too. But anyway, you're right. Temp tables are sometimes an issue, and we will be talking about some of the issues around temp tables and the row estimates that cause problems with execution plans. So we'll be covering that kind of stuff. All right, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is measuring. Measuring's huge. Once you've made the modifications, and the tools we're going to talk about for measuring are, of course, extended events. I'm going to show you how I use extended events for measure. I'm going to show you what I do with them and how they work, and the way that we get through those modifications. Then, of course, we're also going to cover Query Store. Query Store is a major way of tracking how things change in their behavior. Now, Query Store is not as good for fundamental development and testing as the other tools that we're looking at here. But it's still there, and it's still available to us as a tool. So it's something, we'll talk about and how to use it. Of course, we're DMVs. DMVs are a great way to understand what's going on with queries. And we're going to talk about the SSMS tooling. There's a bunch of tools built into SQL Server Management Studio that will help you do query performance tuning. And we're going to show you where they are, and a lot of you don't know. You think you do, but you don't. There are some actually interesting little bits and pieces of good information that we can use while we're trying to measure the changes that we've made that are sort of, for want of a better term, hidden inside of Management Studio. I'm going to show you as many of them as I can. I'm going to show you which ones work well and which ones work badly, and because not all of them are good. Not all of them are good, but we are going to cover those as well. All right, so next up is automate. Now the automation part, this is where we start to talk about some of the things that are built into Azure SQL Database. Azure SQL Database is not going to be a major part of what we're talking about. I'm going to get to which versions of SQL Server all this applies to in just a little bit. But for an automation aspect, Azure SQL Database has a unique set of tools available to it that are only available inside of Azure. When we get to the automation engine aspect, I will show you Azure for that bit. But mostly, when we're talking about automation, we are talking about SQL Server 2017 Plus and Query Store. 2017 and 2019, and then whatever the next version is whenever it comes out, they have got automation built directly into the tool so that you can see what's going on inside of SQL Server. And further, not see it, but actually have SQL Server itself fix some queries. We're going to talk about how that works. Query Store also has some automation built into it, or at least it will enable you to do some types of automation on query performance tuning. And so that's one of the other things that we will be talking about as we go through this course. So that's it. From a query tuning standpoint, we are going to be talking about the tools you need to identify and understand what's going wrong. We're going to be talking about the tools you need to investigate why something went wrong. We're not going to talk very much about the tools needed for modification because that's largely T-SQL, and we're not going to get into how T-SQL works and what T-SQL does. We'll leave that for other people to talk about in other courses. And then we're going to talk a lot about measure, because measure is a big part of query tuning. If you can't know that the things that you've done make a difference, then whatever you've done, changing the code, adding an index, any of the things that you've done, if you don't know that they've made a difference, then what's the point? You need to measure in order to know. And so that's a huge one. And then we will talk about automation. So that's pretty much the plan. This is what we're going to be covering. The next detail, of course, will be getting into how we're going to cover it and a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about. Let me just pause again right here to just check in, make sure if there are any other questions that have come up. As I said before, this is a live stream, so talk to each other, talk to me, type right into the channel, and we will deal with your questions as they come up. I will repeat here again while you guys are doing it. We're going to be doing a Discord server for questions after today. So follow the link down in the descriptions. You can get to the Discord server and get registered. It's free, it's open, it's no big deal. And then the code is available online and the slides are available online. So you can skip listening to me and go to the slides if you want to. Honestly, though, you probably want to listen to it because I add a lot to that's not there in the slides. And thanks for saying it's a nice program. Hopefully we will cover a lot of stuff and you guys will like it. I've got a few more things to cover today. Don't worry, we're not done. So which versions of SQL Server are we talking about for all this stuff? Because this is really important, because a lot of people are like, well, look, I'm not on SQL Server next release, right? We're on SQL Server 2012. We're on 2014. We're someplace on the path, right? We are not yet using Synapse for our primary data warehouse. I get it. So what are we talking about? The vast majority of everything I'm going to talk about during the next 8-week course applies to SQL Server 2012 and up. Almost everything. There's a few things that are Azure SQL Database only. There are, just are. Can't get away from it, but that is a very minor aspect of what we're going to be talking about. There are a few things that we're going to talk about that are Synapse only, and that is a very few things. Only 2 or 3 things that we're going to talk about are Synapse. Everything else is very, very focused on traditional SQL Server. There are some of the tools that are 2016 and up. So when we talk Query Store, which will be a big part of what we're talking about, that is 2016 and up only. But the extended events tools that we're going to cover are 2012 and greater. All the DMVs we're going to cover, except for a couple, 1 or 2 new ones that got introduced. But the vast majority of these are 2012 and greater. All the SSMS tools are 2012 and greater. And so we really, we're going to be covering things that are applicable to as many of you as humanly possible. We're not going to leave people out in the cold. The majority of people are running better, and the majority of this program will be 2012 or better. What's Synapse? Synapse used to be called Azure Data Warehouse. That's what it's now called, Synapse. But anyway, don't worry about it. So I'll probably spend about 4 sentences on it over the next 8 weeks. Are there any concerns here that we're not covering SQL Server 2008? Fact is that it's out of support. Also, the tools supporting 2008, frankly, suck. They were mainly built in 1998, and there's just not much that's not already documented, and very little that's going to add to your ease of query tuning compared to what's available at 2012 and better. And since most people are on 2012 or better for most systems, and I get some people and some systems are on the old stuff, but most people, most systems are 2012 and up. That's why I've focused there. Also, 2012 is when extended events became a major player. But it stunk in 2008. So 2012 and up is really where I'm focusing. Oh, and you can't see that last little bit of slide there, can you? Sorry about that. Let me hide myself again. There you go. Now you can see that's 2016 plus for some of it, but also a few of the automation engine bits. All right. So the tools we are absolutely going to cover, right? This is no questions asked. I guarantee we're going to get to during our 8-week session here. And that is, first up, extended events. We are absolutely going to cover extended events. I intend to turn every one of you into someone who loves extended events, who reaches first for extended events opposed to trace. You will get to the point where you don't know why you ever use trace, because it is so much better. We're going to show you Query Store. We're going to spend a lot of time on that. Not as much time as on extended events. Extended events is really important. Query Store is important too, but extended events is going to be one very long class, or Query Store is just going to be one class. Dynamic management views. We will be covering that in detail so that you guys know what they are. I am going to recommend a couple of resources for you to use for the DMVs. I'm going to recommend that you cheat and use those resources and not write all of it, but we'll talk about why. But more importantly, we're going to talk about the DMVs so that you know what they are, because I really want you guys to understand these, not simply go and use these third-party tools. And by the way, when I say third-party tools, free third-party tools, not anything you have to pay for. But when you go to use those, I want you to understand why you're using them. So we're going to talk about that. Management Studio. It is a fantastic tool. We will also be doing some Azure Data Studio. Not a lot, because I love Azure Data Studio. Don't get me wrong. For anybody who has any questions on it, Azure Data Studio. I do use it a lot for a lot of development. But when I start doing tuning, I have to go back to Management Studio. The tool set inside of Azure Data Studio doesn't support me adequately yet. They're going to get there, but today I'm still forced to go to Management Studio. So there's that. We are going to be talking execution plans. Execution plans will take up at least 2 of the 8 classes, and they will be more than an hour each, I promise. I'm going to show you how I read execution plans. I'm going to show you how I would like you to consider reading execution plans. And it really is about learning what to look for and where to look, and then how to investigate, because execution plans see on its face. A lot of times when I'm teaching execution plans, I show very simplistic demos. Some of the demos that I'm going to show you for this are very simplistic. But the reason we show simplistic demos is so that we can focus on a single point and say, like, see how this works and understand how this, but then later you realize that's not enough. You need, quite a bit more. You've got to be able to get to the point where, you understand more of what's going on. And so that's why I'm going to show you a lot of execution plans. We're going to spend a bunch of time on it so that you can learn how them and how to understand what they're showing you. And then finally, I've got it as a bonus. We may or may not get to it. I guarantee, let's put it this way. If I have to go to a 9th class, if I have to go to 9 weeks instead of 8, we'll get to it. But it may not be in the straight up 8-week class, because the automation is an extra step. And the only reason to use trace nowadays is because XML is not meant for human beings. You're dead on accurate. XML is not meant for human beings. I'm going to show you how XML, because I hate XML as much as you do. So I promise you, we're going to stay away from the XML. We'll look at it. We'll look at it, but then I'm going to show you how to avoid it. So it's a good thing. So anyway, back to the automation. We will cover it, but it might be a class. It might be a 9th class to make sure we get that in, because I am not going to shortchange you on the 2 biggest points. And the 2 biggest points for me in this class are extended events and execution plans. We will not skip on those 2. So if I have to add one more class to, it's online. What's the big deal? If I have to add one more class to cover the automation, I will. So don't you worry. We're not going to skip that. Let's see. Right. So some additional reading, things that you can go to get more. Honestly, these are my books. The bottom book, SQL Server Execution Plans, is completely free. If you go to the slides, click on the link there. That is a free link to the free book. Make sure that you're using the 3rd edition. If you want a print copy, you have to pay for those. I'm sorry. I've got a second link there for the print copy. And then the Query Store, which is primarily not my book, but Tracy's book. Anyway, I helped. And then the 2017 Performance Tuning book. And I know it says 2017, but trust me, it's applicable almost entirely to 2019 as well as Azure SQL Database and even Azure Data Warehouse. So if you want more after these 8 sessions, or 9 sessions that we're going to go over, this is where I would recommend that you go to track. Now, this is something I'm doing because I wanted to. We are going to spend a bunch of time talking about extended events, and so I wanted to make sure that I promote extended events appropriately. And the best way to promote extended events is not to show you my work. The best way to promote extended events is to show you everyone else's work. We joke about it, right? Team X events. It's fun calling it Team XE as opposed to Team Trace or Team Profiler. And it harkens goofy. What is it? The twinkly vampire movies. I forget. But anyway, the jokes aside, there are some amazing people doing some amazing stuff. Now, Dave Mason, Eric Cobb, Jason Brimhall, Aaron Stellato, Aaron Bertrand, Jean-Luca, the DBA Tools team, Eduardo Pivaral, Greg Moore, I'm going to say it wrong, Marcin Gaminsky? Oh, gosh. Schwaszek, Jess, and William Durkin, Jess Schultz, William Durkin, and Eric Darling. These people are doing some incredible work, amazing stuff. So I'm focused on them and promoting their work. So this list is available here. It's also, I just posted it yesterday on my blog. Track this down. Once you see, I'm going to introduce you to extended events, right? I'm going to show you how they work. I'm going to get you excited about them, and then go on so that you can really, really appreciate the amazing things that you can get done with extended events, because this is the best of the extended events posts from every one of these people. All of these people have done extended event stuff, and I asked them, said, pick your favorite, pick the one that you're proud of. And so they sent me this list, and the order in the list is just the order in which they sent me stuff. I didn't want to reorder or try to show favorites. So check this out, track this stuff down. This is really a useful resource for you guys. Now, that's all I had for today. Today is very much an introductory day. Besides, the slides are all available. Go down to the description below. You can see the link. They're on slideshare.net. Look it up under my name. The code is available on GitHub. Again, that link is down in the description. Although if you look up GitHub and track down Scary DBA on GitHub, you can find the code that way. And then the Discord server link is also down in the description. And if there are questions after today, over the whole course and after the course. So if anyone's watching the recording, I am going to continue to monitor that Discord server for as long as there's activity on it. If you guys post questions there, I will be there to try to help out. So that's a long-term resource. It's not simply for today or for this week or for the 8 weeks of this course. It is for as long as it lasts. That's a resource that I will continue to monitor and track, so you guys can track me down and ask me questions, because I love questions. If nothing else, you guys give me blog posts. So that's about it. So today, it's going to be a little bit of a shortened session today, only about 40 minutes. Are there any questions outstanding? I'd be happy to answer anything. Is there anything you expected us to cover that we're not covering? Is there anything you were hoping to get out that I haven't mentioned? Obviously, this was just an overview of the course to get you started. There's stuff coming. Thank you. Great to hear that you guys are excited about it. I'm excited about it. And by the way, let me just reiterate this. Normally, this is a paid course. This is something that I've always put on for pay. This is a pre-con course. The Redgate Community Circle, we decided that we're going to take the paid information and give it away. And that's the whole plan. So we're just going to record it together. Some lagging in sound and video. Sorry about that. I've got a good connection, but we'll see how it goes. If there are issues. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you very much. I will wait about 10 more seconds and blather just to make sure you guys have time to put in any questions that were outstanding. Cool. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. This video will be posted. We will maintain it over time, and everything will be there. I look forward to you guys next week, and we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. So thanks a lot. Have a good day.